Pilgrim's Progress is a figurative story designed to represent the various trials and joys of the Christian life. We meet a man whose name is Christian. He dwells in the city of destruction and has a great burden of sin upon his back. Christian meets a man named Evangelist who tells him how he can be rid of this burden of sin and receive salvation. So Christian starts off on his journey. But it isn't long before he falls into the slough of despond. But God provides a man named Help who assists him in getting out of the slough. Christian then comes to the wicket gate, which is the entrance on the road to heaven. Christian then comes to the house of the interpreter. Here there are many rooms where Christian is shown great lessons about the Christian faith.
Now Christian was walking along the road called Salvation, and there was a hill and there was a cross. And at the bottom of the hill there was a tomb. Now, as soon as the cross's shadow fell upon Christian, his burden slipped from his back and tumbled into the tomb. Now 3 shining ones appeared. One gave him a parchment. The other one gave him bright, shiny new clothes. And Christian leapt for joy.
Christian next comes to the hill of difficulty. This represents a great trial in his life. He climbs up the hill and, being weary, lays down to rest. But in his rest, he loses the parchment that was just given to him by one of the angels. He wakes up and at first does not realize that he has lost his parchment. He continues on his journey for a moment, and then realizing that he has lost his precious parchment, has to go back and search for it, thus losing valuable time and spending even more time in this trial. Christian eventually does find his parchment and continues on his way with joy. Christian now comes to the Palace Beautiful, but standing before the entrance of this palace there are 2 great lions. However, these lions are chained, and with faith, Christian is able to pass safely between them, where he is welcomed by the porter into this place of rest.
As Christian is traveling through the valley of humiliation, he sees coming toward him his arch-enemy, Apollyon, who is a manifestation of Satan. At first, Christian is afraid, but he resolves to stand his ground. Then, Apollyon begins to attack, first by sending fiery darts at him, and then by whacking Christian with his tail. But Christian counterattacks, first by cutting off Apollyon's tail, but then he is thrown to the ground, and Apollyon is standing over him. But Christian reaches for his sword and throws it, chopping off Apollyon's arm, wounding him. Apollyon flies off, and Christian gives glory to God for the victory.
In this scene, we see Christian walking through the fiery valley of the shadow of death, which he considers to be hell. But he makes it through with the help of God.
After coming out of the valley of the shadow of death, God graciously allows Christian to meet another pilgrim, a man named Faithful, who becomes Christian's companion. Christian and Faithful continued on their journey together, encouraging one another as they went. Soon they came to a most ungodly place, the city of Vanity Fair. In Vanity Fair, there could be found almost every kind of worldly pleasure and sinful desire imaginable. Christian and Faithful were not well received and were soon arrested. Faithful was burned at the stake as a martyr for his faith and was taken up into heaven by a chariot. Christian managed to escape and continued his journey with a new friend named Hopeful. However, Christian soon became weary, and he persuaded Hopeful to join him on what seemed to be a slightly easier path. But this path did not turn out to be easier. Christian and Hopeful were soon lost in a storm, and they sought refuge next to a castle. But this castle belonged to Giant Despair. In the morning he found them and put them into his dungeon with orders to drink the poison that he had given them.
That evening, the giant went down into the dungeon to check on his prisoners, who had not touched the poison he left with them.
You didn't take the poison! I'll do it with you like the rest of them!
I'm done. Let's drink the poison.
Don't talk that way. Think of all the things we've gone through. The king has protected us thus far, and he will keep protecting us.
Christian's mind.
I forgot cake.
Let's try it! Yes!
Christian and Hopeful next came to the Delectable Mountains, a beautiful place of rest. From the top of one of these mountains, they were able to catch their first glimpse of the celestial city. Their last obstacle was a great river, which represents death. Christian and Hopeful had to pass through this river in order to reach the gate to the celestial city. Finally, Christian and Hopeful's long journey is over. They arrive at the celestial city. Christian and Hopeful are welcomed and join in the eternal joy of being in the presence of God.